Welcome back to Improvision Entertainment. My name is Huntermun, and this is more of Euro Truck Simulator 2. I noticed when I was watching the videos back before that I was doing this whole 2 thing on. I don't know why, but I was like, you know what? When I get back to it, I'll just continue it. It's been like a year plus, whatever. Um, Once again, for anybody who's watching later on YouTube, I want to give you a warning that I am going to be listening to the news. I'm not going to be as talkative. If that kind of thing is not into you, if you're not into that, you can skip on to the next video in the playlist. I probably should have said that last time, obviously, because there's so many videos in the playlist. But otherwise, I'm going to be listening and occasionally commenting on what's going on. So just keep that in mind, I guess. That doesn't seem to have worked. Buttons. Try that again.
John, are you ready? News,
Oops.
of course, in the classic GB News fashion. John, are you ready?
Okay.
I think so.
All right, sounds good.
Back to the full screen.
So on July 11th,
make sure I can see my chat.
Workers in Augusta, Maine, filed a petition to form the company's.
Now I gotta back out of here.
But
in the early morning
Chipotle
hours.
Announced that they would be closing down that store. Here are the details of that story. The store recently became the first Chipotle location to file union paperwork with the National Labor Relations Board, according to the Associated Press. The matter was
Can I get through there? Probably not.
At a 10 a.m. hearing on Tuesday, but the company informed workers of the closure in a 7:30 a.m. email. According to emails shared with the Washington Post by Jeff Young, an attorney representing the workers. So here's an excerpt of.
Well, I made it without hitting the pole, which is my bigger concern.
Despite the considerable time and resources we've spent trying to staff the restaurant, we don't have management necessary to reopen it. And combined with the ongoing call-outs and lack of availability of existing staff, we won't be able to open the restaurant for the foreseeable future. As a result, Chipotle has made the difficult decision to close the location permanently. But Chipotle's excuse doesn't really hold up because the company has deliberately
Can I make this light?
The store for months. Let's watch.
They kept insisting that we run with not quite the number of people that we should run with.
If there aren't enough people to run the store, we have to cut corners.
We have customers coming in and they're upset. Why are you so slow? Why is the food not right? The dangers of not being able to have enough people to run the store are a lot of shortcuts that are unsafe.
Did the video lag out or? No, okay.
Employees are struggling. Let's watch.
I am interested in companies with magnificent sales and earnings, like Chipotle.
Melissa, Chipotle out with beats on the top and bottom lines for Q1. Same-store sales also up 9%.
Chipotle shares sizzled in early trading Wednesday, jumping more than 10% to a record high.
You know, look, I think our secret weapon is our people and our culture.
Okay.
So for the reasons you heard, the working conditions that were awful at Chipotle and the huge pay differentials between Chipotle executives and the workers, the Chipotle employees decided that it's time to create a union, and we'll let the workers speak for themselves on why precisely they decided to do that.
We're asking for the bare minimum that Chipotle itself should be providing to begin with. Training and staffing your own restaurant is pretty par for the course for any business.
It benefits us, but also it benefits Chipotle and the customers too. When we realized that we could all stand up together and say, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. You can't, run us around like this anymore. They listened.
Cool. That's how unionizing works.
For forming their union, and of course Chipotle's response, shut down the store. And Chipotle is actually not the only large company that is using this union-busting tactic. Amy's Kitchen makes ethical vegetarian frozen and canned food, but the company's not so ethical when it comes to how they treat their employees. On Monday, July 18th, 2022, Amy's Kitchen in San Jose announced the closure of their facility in the city after just over a year of operations. Workers were blindsided with the news. Without any advance notice, workers came in with their lunch bags. Then within an hour of clocking in for their shift, they were summoned to a meeting where the news broke that their jobs were gone. In the last few months, Amy's workers organized work actions to demand respect and justice on the job. They were met with captive audience meetings, threats, intimidation, and retaliation from management. Amy's closure of the facility in San Jose is part of their overall campaign orchestrated against its workers. More perfect U.S.
Income
reporting on that.
$282 from
And
Simon.
Starbucks has
Simon,
been
what
using
short
this
ass
same
trips are you
tactic as
making,
well.
man?
Famously so, about 3% of Starbucks stores nationwide are in the process of unionizing. Yet somehow 30% of the
I see
stores
cop
Starbucks
lights.
is closing have active union campaigns. There's no clearer evidence of Starbucks union busting rampage. Again, more perfect union reporting. And so it's really no surprise why these corporations are afraid of unions. Unions are quite effective. Wages for workers in a union are
They were
11%
helping someone.
more than what non-union workers
Oh,
make.
I guess European cops?
94% of workers
Huh.
in a union have employer-provided health insurance compared to 68% overall, and 91% of workers in a union have access to paid sick days. A report by the Economic Policy Institute shows that increased union density increases wages and benefits for all workers, reduces racial and gender disparities in the labor market, and helps win pro-worker legislation across all levels of government. Now, the Starbucks unionization is pretty significant. I actually
Please, no
spoke
train.
with,
Please, no
the lead
train.
union organizer there for Workers United Starbucks, and his name is Richard Minter, and he said to me, the heinous attack by Starbucks against partners is unlike any I have ever witnessed. Made up allegations, sinister plotting against targeting supporters, mean-spirited, and meant to hurt the workers. Starbucks doesn't deserve such loyal, devoted staff. So things are getting pretty intense as we see the labor movement really growing in the United States. Corporations are terrified, and it's because unions are very effective at cutting into those profit margins where executives are taking that money home and actually giving workers some of the fruits of their labor, some of the dollars created off of the labor that they do on behalf of those corporations for wages that are far less than their labor is worth. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. My thoughts are that I feel bad for Chipotle for having to make that difficult decision. I'm sure that they spent days just think, is there any way around this? Is this, oh wait, this is something that I really, really, really want to do. It's awesome and it's going to benefit me personally. Screw the workers. Who cares about them? I love messages like that. The Amy's thing, by the way, I'm glad that you mentioned that. It's a reminder to people that like the theme of a company doesn't necessarily say anything about its values. Like that's
true.
Ending. That's all that is. I mean, look, I'm committed to Ben and Jerry's up until they eventually turn on us. But other than Ben and Jerry's, it doesn't really mean anything. Like the Google said, "Do no evil." Like they say things like this. This is what PR
That's
is
true.
about. And also, I'm really glad that you played that video summarizing the profitability of Chipotle, because there are many corporations that would use the supposed difficulties that they're having staffing their shops. Like they want to use that as an excuse. The fact that they're making so much money that they can obviously afford to increase pay and benefits totally undercuts that, which means that we, through the beginning of the pandemic up until this year, there have been, as you said, more and more labor actions all over the place in all sorts of different industries, and that is great. The strike back against that is very predictable. The issue is going to be, are we going to be able to make them pay for that? Is the bad publicity they're going to get off of the actions you've detailed going to be worse for them than simply going along with the unionization? It's one of the reasons that, like More Perfect US, other groups like that are so important for constantly drawing people's attention to these. People in the chat were shocked that
Trevor
unions, had
Elizabeth
done something
couldn't
like
find a
this.
job.
We
Damn it,
need
Elizabeth.
people
I haven't
to
even
know
heard from
about
you
unions and about
in
all
like
these
this
other
sitting, I don't
corporations,
think. And
so that companies in the future will be too
fuel
scared
and
to do
maintenance
this sort of
costs
thing.
negative 1,000.
Yeah,
What the fuck were you doing driving around not finding a job?
Enough lawsuits brought against places like
You're
Amazon,
killing me here,
places like
Elizabeth.
Starbucks, against Amy's, for their violations of labor law, blatant violations. When Amazon was trying to unionize in Bessemer in Alabama, they put one of the ballot boxes where you could submit your mail-in vote for or against the union. It was right on the company's property in the parking lot, which is against NLRB law. And for months and months, the people on the ground in Alabama that were organizing with the union were saying they're gonna, if this election doesn't go their way, they're just going to say, hey, it's actually not a fair election. We didn't realize that we shouldn't have had this on our property. It swayed the results. And no matter how that election was going to go, Amazon was going to be like, oh, we have to do it again, extend the process to unionize. It's a union busting tactic because they have huge lawyers. They have so much money to pay lawyers. And who's going to defend these workers in front of the NLRB and defend NLRB law? I think that's a huge gap we have in the labor movement right now.
Yeah, and then I'm only one other quick point.
I'm enjoying these wide open spaces right now.
They find the added pressure coming from more and more of their incoming employees to unionize to be unacceptable. They want to go back to the way things were before the pandemic, where workers are at most an inconvenience for corporations.
Balloon!
Their economic prospects and all that are not something to be considered. The only people that are supposed to matter are the CEO and the board, and of course the shareholders. That's it. No, it's not acceptable anymore. That is, we are not going to judge our society as having a successful, prosperous economy simply because it generates a nice rate of return for shareholders.
Oh, that was white. I thought maybe it was a cop.
Having to, sleep in their car, then that's acceptable. And like they seem to be experiencing some whiplash. Like
the way that balloon got obliterated in the left rearview mirror, I was not expecting that.
They haven't yet, I guess, gotten used to that reality, and
got
so
like
their
absorbed
strike back is
into
gonna
the
be
sky.
harsh, and it's going to be really painful for people. Like your company being shut down and losing your jobs, like that is for individuals, for many people, that's devastating. The effect on their life. But there's going to be a lot of these different battles.
Okay, that cop
Hopefully
didn't think I was
politicians will
speeding.
Start to side with these workers. There's very few in the federal government that do, but
I was totally expecting it.
having the I guess the balance of the benefits of capitalism be fundamentally shifted. It's been inevitable, I think, for a long time, and it's good to see people fighting to make that actually happen.
Yeah, it's actually really great to see. This is a dream come true when we saw Amazon form their first union. Seeing people realize that a union's actually important and overcome a lot of the union busting
I have not
tactics that
calculated
were
how
so
long this would actually
sophisticated.
take.
Because at the end of the day, Amazon would be nothing without their workers. Amy's nothing without their workers. Chipotle, nothing without their workers. There wouldn't be any profits there for the executives to split up and take home. That money comes from people doing work with their own two hands. And of course, they're going to tell you, you don't need a union. We have a great
More train
relationship
tracks.
with you. We don't need a union getting in the middle of us. And then, of course, they're going to promote the people who are the main folks organizing the unit. And they're going to use every single union busting tactic there is.
Speedy
because
2-lane
a
road.
lot's on the line for them. Hundreds of millions of dollars. They can spend a fraction of that subduing union efforts and go home at the end of the day and be fine. And so it's great that people are starting to see through that, because for a long time we've seen union membership decline in the United States, and it's great that that's changing, and it's high time that that's changing.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. We've got to go to a break. We'll be back after this.
Welcome back, one and all, to the social break. Give you an idea of what you can expect coming up after the bonus episode. It's Wednesday, which means happy half hour, and this is what's written: soft news and stiff cocktails. It's happy half hour time with Brett Ehrlich on twitch.tv/TYT. Brett. Anyway, it's always a lot of fun. I don't see anything about what bracket they're going to be doing. I would love to know that, so if I could get that in there. Come on, let's generate a little interest, give people a little teasy-tease. Anyway, over in the members' comments, Jambagino says, I'm interested in how Cinema is going to vote for a bill to protect same-sex marriage. Even though she's a member of the LGBTQ+ community, I think she identifies more with the Roadblock for Progress community. I get the knee-jerk, she's going to screw us over. I would assume in this case, she would vote in favor of it, and not even principally because she's a member of the LGBTQ+ community, but she does the obstruction she does for the financial interests of those who back her. And unless I'm missing something, I don't know what the financial interest, from the elites is in stopping marriage equality. So I think she would be freed up. Apparently not freed up enough to be a big vocal advocate for this, unless I've been missing some major tweets or something. But I think that she will vote the right way.
What is this?
Tall Glass of Shut Up Juice says, besides the people that will die directly from the climate crisis,
Bayat
drought and floods are very, very bad for crops and our food chain. not to mention fresh water. If some of us have any water at all, the pressure, like culturally and socially, it's going to come from lack of access to clean water and food. The pressure that's going to be put on whole
While
regions of the earth that
stuck,
will no longer be able to sustain
discovered.
agriculture is going to be absolutely massive. And that is going to be one of the chief tools the fascists use to get people onto their side. We need to hoard resources and give them to the right sorts of people, because all of the undeserving people are trying to take it. It's going to be a really exciting next 50 years or so. The quantum mechanic says, in the UK, we build houses to keep heat and not repel it. They act like radiators, soaking up the heat during the day and releasing it at night. It just gets stored. Well, I think there's a lot of brick architecture in London, especially. Anyway, OJM says, John, I wish you could be a bit more cheery about the imminent fascist policies we're going to impose as we harden borders against climate refugees. Why are you so doom and gloom?
For
I
real.
apologize. For a brief moment, I got Harbingy. Anyway, I'm Sock says, it's a stupid waste of time. Sir, this is the Senate. Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be like the greatest deliberative body in world history. What do you gotta go get to, like, Pilates? Like, your job is to debate. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Anyway. Okay.
Will that light remain green? What a great question. Nope.
Been analyzing the video and trying to identify whether Jessica is in fact herself or Jank in a Jessica mask. And they've said, and I'm sorry, Jank, if you're watching this, Jessica has more impressive triceps, according to someone from Flint. So it's clearly not Jank. Sorry, Jank. Anyway,
Has Jank ever showed try?
He's bragged about how awesome his triceps are going to get as he works out on the show. I think that's what they're referencing there. Anyway, and he has very often showed his triceps. Anyway, let's get back to the news.
Welcome back to the Young Turks. It's Jessica Burbank and John Itarola filling in for Jank and Anna today. We have more news for you.
I don't understand these
Let's get
big
into this.
divided cross, like...
Oh, the homeless person's property is protected?
Right.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
then turn right.
Huh.
If you were to go and try to move that or take that,
You'd get arrested.
yeah,
Turn right.
yeah.
Hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But they wouldn't arrest you if you shot somebody. Maybe you should just go and shoot the homeless people.
Seem like a great group of guys there. That's Joe Rogan and comedian Tom Segura joking about shooting homeless people. Here's that exchange in full.
Yeah, I kind of need
And
the
then,
context on that one.
On the underpass, and there's porta potties. Not one either, like four, like a deck of porta potties. And then someone has a car parked there on the sidewalk, like partly on the sidewalk. So they're like half blocking a lane. And then they have like a canopy draped over their car, and they have just stacks of. And then next to it was a dresser. They had a dresser.
Jesus.
So they had their shoes in a shoe rack. There was a shoe rack. Like, this is where they live.
That's
They're just-
really wild. I didn't know also that, when you see stuff like that on the streets, at least in Los Angeles or maybe in California, that's protected property, like by law. You know that? Like if you were
So
to
you're
go,
not supposed to do that.
but like that's that person's property by law. If you
Oh,
were to
the
go,
homeless person's property is
Yes.
protected?
Yes, absolutely.
Huh.
If you were to go and try to move that or take that,
You'd get arrested.
yeah, yeah.
Hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But they wouldn't arrest you if you shot
I
somebody.
mean, you would. That's
Maybe you
why
should just go and
cops
shoot
would
the
do
homeless
it.
people.
I like your ideas.
Yeah. And if nobody claims it, I mean, nobody does anything about violent crime in LA anymore. It's a joke.
Yeah.
They're just letting people out.
They're just letting people out. What people are
It's
they
really
letting out?
unfortunate that Joe Rogan's comments are a reflection of a larger problem, a trend of violence against the homeless communities in Los Angeles, California. The comments about beginning to kill homeless people hits too close to reality for any comfort. Because the murders of homeless people in Los Angeles went up 47% last year over the previous year, there's a bit of an unfortunate vigilantism already in Los Angeles towards people devastated by homelessness, and they don't need any encouragement. That's Andy Bales, Union Rescue Mission, President and CEO. That's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. They provide emergency services, free health clinics, and resources to help break the cycle of homelessness. They are also a religious organization. We have more from Andy Bales, who said, usually when I get a case like this with somebody with a lot of influence and responsibility, he's talking about Joe Rogan there, I invite them to come see what's happening on the street and get to know the people they're talking about. I would invite Joe to come to Union Rescue Mission to see not only our work, but see what's been happening on the streets and who these people are, who he's talking about. And a lot of folks are saying that Joe Rogan's comments are just a reflection of larger culture in the United States. We have this tweet, Joe Rogan being a millionaire and saying we should shoot homeless people is basically the most American thing anyone has said ever. So according to Celebrity Net Worth, Joe Rogan is worth a ton of money, $120 billion. And all of that money has clearly gotten to Joe Rogan's head. Here's a clip that we covered on the Young Turks last month when Rogan complained about unemployment. Let's watch.
I have a friend who has a restaurant. He could not get people to come back to work.
Yeah.
And so one buddy of mine, a bartender told him, I can come back to work, but I can only work for 20 hours a week because that way I get unemployment. So he wouldn't work more than 20 hours a week so he could get free money. So he could have made more money, but he didn't want to because he didn't want to work. You see a lot of people that are
That's not what that means, Joe. It means that he doesn't get paid enough at his job, so he takes the unemployment.
The pros are people. It's a market.
You're coming about that the wrong way.
Favors the worker, so workers can ask for more money. So you're seeing a lot of places like bars and restaurants and stuff that have to pay more money per hour, which I guess is good as long as the restaurant can stay open.
Absolutely insane. So not only is it a criminal
Yeah, dude.
to be a homeless person in the United States of America, the people that don't want to work for less than a living wage, they're a part of the problem as well. And let's talk a little bit about what's going on with housing in California. So there are a lot of commercial luxury apartment buildings where most of the units are vacant. And the people, the developers who build those buildings, can claim a loss and get a huge tax break from those buildings. There are also companies like Zillow that are investing in properties. What they'll do is they'll go in and buy up 5 houses in a neighborhood. First, they'll purchase 3. They'll pay about $200,000 for each of those homes, and then they'll buy an additional, 2 homes.
You just decide you can make it, little red car?
$300,000, effectively lifting the price of housing. So now they can sell the original 3 at a $100,000 gain. And now they've priced out all of those people from that neighborhood. Now they've become renters. Well, what's going on with the renting market in California? There are so many Airbnbs and short-term rentals. It's not just Airbnb, there's VRBO and a bunch of other services now. But they've gone in, they've taken units, they either rent them out or they purchase the apartments, and then they rent them out at a much higher rent than they could charge for long-term leases. And this is effectively raising the price of rent for people in the city. This is forcing people into homelessness. And Joe Rogan is here saying we should shoot people for
that
being
road
homeless
exists.
and trying to live on the street. That's a better solution than just respecting their space as they try and find shelter in the
This is a nice wooded area. I like this.
It's cruel. John, what do you think?
Chopping a lot of trees
Real
down
quick,
in South
Carolina
Carolina right
clarification. I
now.
think you made a reference to billions, but meant millions. I saw people in the chat talking about that.
Yeah.
He's many, many, many millions of dollars. Understand that having $120 million or $120 billion means basically nothing in practice. You have more money than any person could ever spend. So let's just be clear about that. He has reached the strata of the unimaginably rich. There is nothing he cannot buy effectively. So let's be clear about that. And he's been in that bubble of great wealth for a very long time. So that's one clarification. The other clarification is I am sure that once this video goes up, many people are probably watching this when it's been uploaded to the channel. Probably about 10,000 people have already gone down in the chat to educate us that he was joking. And I want to clarify, yes, I know that he was joking. I know that Joe Rogan was not literally saying to his audience, you should go out and you should shoot the homeless. I get it. Yes, he was joking. He also felt like that was something to joke about, either because of his ignorance about the absolute epidemic of violence and murder against the unhoused
What is that?
community, or and that's me being generous to assume that he doesn't know that, because the only alternative is that he does know that but still believes that that is what he should be joking about. And again, at the end of the day, it
What
is
is that?
about what he thinks.
It seems like a major landmark. I don't know what that was.
Matters. All of the, I'm going to say, white guys who are putting into the chat that he was joking. How do you like jokes about how people should be able to get away with shooting white guys without experiencing any consequences? Do you think that that's really funny, or do you freak out politically about anything like that? And by the way, you freak out about rich elites who don't understand regular Americans. You get that you're listening to one. I understand that he's into MMA or something. but he has way more in common with Donald Trump than with you. I know that you don't want to believe that because of the branding around his podcast and everything, but that's who he is. He hasn't lived as a regular person for a very, very long time. He doesn't know what it's like to live on a salary of $75K, let alone to live out of the back of the van that is your home.
Oh,
I love
I'm
that
supposed
the
to be speeding
activists
up.
offered to bring him in there so
I zoned
he could
out.
actually learn about their experience. I challenged
I
him
got
to
too
do
comfy.
that on the Daily Report this morning.
$356 from Jana.
Perspective broadened. He wants to learn.
It's not a lot of
about
money,
more
Jana.
stuff. Well, I would argue that there are better ways
Oh,
to do that
but
than
you
to
leveled.
bring you on
That's
some
good.
Author, go out there and learn about it. I think that that would be a pretty eye-opening experience for him.
Yeah, let's hope that I didn't just speak into existence that Joe Rogan's going to become a billionaire. Let's hope that never happens in this timeline. That would be terrifying. But yeah, it doesn't really matter if he's joking about shooting homeless people. He's inconvenienced by the fact that they have their houses on the street.
Keep
He's
left? Oh, keep
surprised
left.
that property is protected by law. He clearly has this belief that these people don't have a right to housing. And I'm sure all of the people who
What was
listen to this
that Mac
podcast who
droplet
think
noise?
He's a relatable, everyday guy are much closer to homelessness than he has ever been. Most people in the United States of America are just one inconvenient event, just one unlucky event from being homeless, from going bankrupt. That's the reality that we live in. And
60% of Americans
homeless
cannot
people as if,
afford a sudden $400
not
expense.
deserving of having a place to sleep at night, and even joking that we should just shoot them to get rid of them because we don't want to see them in the streets. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And the fact that people listen to him and they're like, oh, well, he's just relatable. He probably wants us to find solutions to homelessness. Okay, let him say that if that's what he believes, but that's not what he's saying. You can't keep defending people like this. All right, let's go on to another break. We'll be back after this.
Another break.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's see what's going on out there. Hold on. Brett Ehrlich says, congrats on comedian Joe Rogan finally getting in trouble for a joke. Till this point, he just got in trouble for sharing really... Wow, you can actually swear in those comments. You almost had me read one live on air, Brett. Nice. SC Earnest takes 100%. Again, at the end of the day, I don't care about Joe Rogan. I care about the audience he is creating. There are many, many guys who ostensibly look like me, who look up to him and pattern their lives and their personalities on him.
I was trying not to hit a sign or an invisible wall potentially.
I don't want it to be this way. If it was up to me, I don't know why that would be the most popular podcast in the world, but that's the way that it is, and a lot of people are influenced by him. Okay, let's see what else is going on. First of all, new YouTube members: Roger Turner, Efren Ruiz, Eric Altman as well. Thank you to all of you for becoming members. True Dwabi says 1,000 times more than the median worker, not even the lowest. Yeah, the CEO pay disparity was absurd when TYT launched, and it has only become more ridiculous ever since. The important thing to remember, though, is
it sounds like he was talking about TYT when he said that.
1,000 times what a worker is paid is because they work 1,000 times harder and deserve it 1,000 times more. You are a peasant, okay, and they are gods on earth. That's what you should know. Jesse Holbrook sent in a super chat saying, haven't we always had rocks impacting the Earth's surface as large as a city? Why look up?
Yeah, that.
I gotta watch that again. Anyway, okay. Oh, Huntus Farmer, this is from earlier, says, correction, the poles are not the hottest on the 2021 map. They are the farthest from average. That is why they are bad. The equator is still hotter. I don't know if I misspoke, but yes, no, that map was of temperature variance, not of absolute temperature. I don't know if I accidentally said that. I apologize. No, it was that the greatest variance was happening at the poles. I do understand that. I actually was lucky enough not too long ago, not too many years ago, to spend time in the Arctic embedded on a ship with climate scientists. So apologies for the misspeaking. Anyway, Anish Phillip says, check out the new Media's Touch ad. Oh, Midas Touch ad. TYT Anna clip on Dr. Oz is in it, the Wizard of Lies. Okay, definitely going to have to check that out. It's going to give Anna a kick when she gets back. How Blair you, by the way, sent you a super chat to say, I miss Michael Brooks.
Welcome back to the Young Turks. It's Jessica Burbank and John Idarola. Let's get into this next story.
Idarola.
Really, more bad news. Since politicians will not pass meaningful gun control measures, schools have been forced to take matters into their own hands with half measures that likely won't do much to prevent future mass shootings. Here are the details. A handful of school districts across Texas
Kanas
have moved forward to
Veple.
announce clear backpack mandates for the upcoming academic year. Jake Epstein with the Insider reporting. This week, Dallas Independent School District became the latest state, or the latest in the state to announce that students must have clear or mesh backpacks for the upcoming year, following others like Greenville, San Antonio Southside, and
Cop
Ingleside.
talking to somebody.
So what they're talking about is quite literally a backpack that is made of clear or mesh plastic, or clear plastic or mesh, so that you can see absolutely through it and you can see all of its contents, so that no one can bring in, I don't know, an AR-15 in their backpack. We should be able to see through.
You can't
to
fit an
see
AR-15 in your
right?
backpack.
Of course, that's a joke because an AR-15 wouldn't fit into a backpack. And we know such a significant proportion of these mass shootings are large assault rifles. It's not students bringing them in their backpacks, but this is the policy measure that the schools have decided they're going to go with.
Go straight on.
Insider reached Chris Grolnick, who's a retired police officer, police detective corporal, an expert in active shooter prevention. His
Kanas discovered.
One solution.
Baltic tourists 4 of 35. Wow, I haven't been up in the Baltics at all.
Should be one step in a larger plan that includes measures like tighter gun laws, broader access to mental health resources, and better police training. In the absence of meaningful reforms like those, we're very likely to just see more mass shootings. But schools are probably going to keep implementing half measures like this because, of course, schools can't make gun laws and restrict the purchasing of AR-15s. But some other steps that they could take include more training for staff, restricted access to enter schools, gun detection surveillance, automatic lockdowns, and software that would immediately notify police of a gunshot.
You start looking ahead for where I'm going to stop.
Made a really interesting analogy to fires at schools. He said, "We haven't lost a child to a school fire in 64 years. Adding that, we got tired of losing kids to fire in schools and introduced prevention methods like fire trucks, fire alarms, and fire.
I think I can skip this next one, but not the one after it.
Stop dying in schools yet. He added, listen, I'm sure that fire trucks were not invented for the purpose of fires in schools and children dying of fires in schools. Fires are a problem everywhere. Mass shootings are a problem uniquely in places like schools in the United States. And listen, the reason we don't have tons of children dying in fires today is because there's no fire lobby, but there is a gun lobby. And gun rights groups in the United States spent a record of $15.8 million on lobbying in 2021 alone, $2 million in the first quarter of 2022. These organizations have invested $190 million in lobbying efforts since 1998. Gun rights advocates spent more than $114 million of that total since 2013. So that's Open Secrets reporting. They do a lot of good work creating transparency and who's taking money from who. But it's just disgusting that schools are forced to implement policies like clear backpacks. I mean, think about what you carried in your backpack. Think about, if you're a young girl and you're like menstruating for the first time and you have to put menstrual products in your backpack on your way to school. Now it's clear, now everyone can see in your backpack. That's just like one facet of the kind of privacy you're losing with having clear backpacks. It's just really not a solution for mass shootings. And now you're forcing families to go out and buy special backpacks for their kids. How many families can afford to get a new backpack for their kids? I mean, this is a cost that you have to consider. And it's obviously an imperfect solution to this problem. And the reason we don't have actual policy solutions is because of the amount of money lining the pockets of politicians to legislate on behalf of corporations instead of the public interest, the kids in the schools.
Yeah, I'm glad that you pointed out the added cost, because it's always so telling who they're able to easily, without any debate, levy costs against. If you have multiple kids and you have to place both their backpacks, that's a cost. My wife's sister is a teacher in Texas, actually, and she has to do what a lot of teachers have to do, which is do like Amazon wish lists for like erasers and stuff for cubbies and everything. Like they desperately, there's no funding there. A lot of these areas, neither the parents nor the teachers have excess money. And to just throw that onto them, as, by the way, none of them believe that that's going to have any effect on any of these shootings for the reasons you pointed out. It's just a thing so that you can say that you did something. And as people in the chat are saying, wait, but I thought they were supposed to get bulletproof backpacks. I thought that was the direction we were going in. Is it possible that none of these are actually solutions? The thing with the fire, actually, I thought was a pretty interesting analogy. Yes, we do have to have stuff like fire trucks. We have to have those systems to get to a fire when it starts, because the thing is that fires happen sometimes. They don't have to be really caused. They can happen spontaneously. And by the way, we also try to control certain types of materials and stuff to make them not happen naturally. That analogy falls down in the face that...
Oh, wait. I just remembered. I don't have to do the
idea that
turn signals, but the turn signals actually signal the AI your intentions. And they react differently, I think.
They are forced to exist in the context that, for instance, with Uvalde, they're put in by the Republican state legislature. They are put in the literal line of fire and are unable to do anything to stop it from happening. And the best they can hope for is that the cops will arrive quickly.
God damn it.
Won't be absolutely cowardly. That, you know, software will detect the first
You little
shot.
shit.
The issue with that is that that first shot might have just murdered a teacher. And so we
Oh, God.
surrender so much. We surrender 1 minute, 3 minutes, 10 minutes for that person to kill as many people as they want to before the cops can possibly
My bad.
have any hope of getting there. And thanks to the gun laws, you can kill a lot of people in that time. And that 1 minute, that 10 minutes, that period where they get to kill unrestrained, we're not allowed to debate what the conditions should be for that. We're not allowed to debate whether some weapons are inherently too dangerous to be allowed to exist.
Yeah, red flag laws would do so much to reduce mass shootings. And the way that they talk about red flag laws, like it's violating people's rights against unreasonable search and seizure, their Fifth Amendment rights.
Every fine is money I don't put in the bank.
Red flag laws, more often than not, would have stopped so many of these mass shootings, because there have been people who have reported a lot of these guys to the FBI in advance of this. There have been members of the community who have known that these people are a huge risk. And so just red flag laws alone would do far more than what this guy suggests, which is more police training. What were the officers in Uvalde not trained to do? Well, we've covered this on the show, unfortunately, quite a lot this week because we've had to. But police officers are taught to protect yourself and make sure you get home. And oftentimes that means at the expense of the lives of the civilians they have interactions with, where they think someone might
because this is done in real time.
Crouched behind a car. Robert
I'm going to
Adams
skip ahead a little bit further.
A 23-year-old who was shot by San Bernardino police. The police just got out of the car and
Ludwig
started firing.
and so I missed who the first person was.
To get themselves home. Why did 400 officers in Uvalde
Simon.
not stop this mass shooter? Was it really training?
I could have sworn I had more employees. More Ludwig.
All right, we have time to get to this next story, and we are going to be able to lighten it up a little bit.
Good amount of income.
This is kind
Let's
of
get it to the morning.
If you are not in a position where you feel like you're able to, you should conceive a child. If conceiving a child would be disastrous for you, you believe, then do not participate in activities that literally billions of times in the past have resulted in the conception of a child. If reproduction, maybe I'll phrase it this way, because I really want to make it very simple for these people. They have difficulty understanding complex concepts. So we're going to dumb it down as much as possible. If reproduction would be a disaster for you, you believe, then do not participate in the Reproductive Act.
What about rape, dude? What the fuck are you talking about?
All right, so that is Matt Walsh, host of the Daily
Trigger
Wire,
warning for the
in a
news,
recent
obviously.
Episode of his podcast, and hey, these ideologues who love freedom now want you to not have sex unless you want a child. Matt Walsh says we need to be abstinent. All right, so can you picture just like being intimate with the partner and just saying, you know what, Matt Walsh said that we shouldn't, so can't do this. Yeah, alternatively, we could say, you know, as a queer woman, whenever I have sex with another woman, that's never a concern. So maybe Matt Walsh's solution is everyone do gay sex. I think we should, you know, tweet that out, that's what Matt Walsh wants us to do. And he just won't stop calling it the reproductive act. He will not call it sex. He will not be a normal human being. He keeps saying the reproductive act. Let's roll a clip of him saying that again.
If you're able to reproduce, and yet reproduction would be a catastrophe, then do not participate in the reproductive act.
The reproductive. Imagine your friends like telling a story and they're like, and then, you know, we did the reproductive act. I'd be like, ew, stop it, you weirdo. This is so weird. The reproductive act, like the Ohio State University, really throws the in there. I don't like it. I think it's creepy. Yeah. What do you think about the reproductive act? No reproductive act.
I think a lot of people might agree with you that it's a bit creepy. I'm not sure that he's actually worried about that. So that's Matt Walsh. You know, when they cranked out Ben Shapiro, then they did a couple of clones of it, and each of them has gone in a different direction. Some have tried to make their name by spending a lot of time with Ted Cruz. It's a weird way to go in terms of popularity. He decided to make a couple of changes to get the success that he saw Ben Shapiro having. One, he decided to cover up as much of his face as possible. I think that was a good call. And the other was that he decided his shtick was going to be open fascism. You know, so Ben Shapiro will imply that you should listen to him and you should believe what he says because he's the intellectual, he's the logical.
Oh, I forgot I could check how much time, physical, actual time I have to rest.
Arguments, and in fact, if you look,
that I need to rest.
On Twitter, he believes that power is the only thing that should matter. So when he is saying, if you don't want to have a child, you will be forced by government law, effectively, to be abstinent, he's not making an intellectual case. He's not making a legal philosophical case.
Oh, that looks like
he's
roundabout.
Not even really there making a religious case. What he's saying is, we
Go
made
on
it
left.
happen. We can force you to do what we want. He believes that Christians are better than non-Christians. Men are better than women. White people are better than non-white people. Straight people are better than anyone else. Cis people better than trans. And that is the way it's going to be based on the power of government and the threat of being locked up.
There's so many signs I could have hit there.
Pretty cutting edge. I think other Republican pundits will get there at some point. This idea that we have the power, not the number.
Cop didn't care.
Agree with them.
Even though I might be falling asleep at the wheel.
Me and Jessica do. But it's gonna be the way we want because we believe in supremacy and we've got the majority. Structurally, the system is so rigged that people with as abhorrent and unpopular positions as we have can still maintain supremacy in the Supreme Court, if nowhere else. And that's it. He doesn't try to hide it. And to some extent, while I find him to be a disgusting human being, I
should have ran some ads.
The honesty to some extent.
Oh, I didn't actually end the recording.
Yeah, the fascism.
That's
right.
fine.
It's so
everything is fine.
Here. Because think about who has the money and resources, who is set up well in their lives to reproduce, to take on another life and provide for it. It is people who have privilege in our society. He's essentially saying that people who should reproduce are the people who have privilege in our society. And he says everyone else should resist their compulsions because we're human beings and not beasts. Let's watch that clip.
Because if you are able to produce, to reproduce, no matter what else you do, you can make it this quote-unquote safest kind of sex you want, there's always still going to be a chance that you reproduce. And if that chance would be like plunging off of a cliff level of catastrophe in your life,
what is
then
it?
don't
Wait,
participate.
is this a...
Act. Control yourself.
Control yourself.
Right? We're human beings. We should be able to exercise some self-control. Right? We're not beasts in the jungle that are unable to control our compulsions. At least we shouldn't be. One of the defining features of human beings, one of the things that's supposed to set us apart from beasts, is that we are able to.
I wonder when they open up Russia, if they're going to open up Russia.
Choose not to do it.
Interesting theories from Matt Walsh. Human beings.
I wonder if all the roads are going to be in bad shape. I've heard that.
Babies. No shagging unless you want.
That could be propaganda. I don't know if that's true.
Great. Thank you,
but I've heard
Matt Walsh,
that.
so much for that contribution. Listen, I think what he's doing here is just
That
setting
car
it up,
wrecks
right?
are,
There
like,
members of the far right
crazy
who
high.
plant
That's
the
why
seeds,
everybody's
then they're
mandated to
watered
have
and sown by all of the other members of right-wing
dash
media.
cams.
And listen, they harvest those crops when the time comes, and what he's planting the seeds for is the eventual overturning of Griswold v. Connecticut. And we already had Clarence Thomas in the majority opinion.
What am I looking
hint
at?
That this is exactly what they plan to do. This is the Supreme Court case that guaranteed our right to contraceptives, because he's not saying if you don't want to have a baby, if you don't want to have an abortion, use condoms, use birth control. He's saying abstain from sex.
Oh,
they're absolutely
there's an actual that was an ambulance, I think. I didn't notice it because the lights were a different color than they are here.
All of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. He's asking for these cases to be brought before the court. So the way the court usually should go is there are some cases where people believe their rights have been violated, and the court picks a few cases out of, you know, hundreds that they get every single year. Now he's asking specifically, can we get some cases so we can overturn these precedents? Really great functioning democracy we have here.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Also, I guess, you know, all of the people who are raped should have exercised more impulse control. That 10-year-old in Ohio, she really should have controlled her impulses. So it's perfectly acceptable for them to not be able to have abortions. A Texas woman who had to carry a dead fetus for 2 weeks should have exercised more impulse control. How about you exercise some impulse control? The impulse to, when you are living a life where you are so small, so broken as a man that you feel you have to tightly control everything that a woman does, how about you exercise some control over that impulse?
Yep, couldn't agree more. All right, we've got more on the other side for the bonus episode. Become a member, tune into that.
Well, I gotta get that black box off of the screen. But also, it's been about 45 minutes, so it'd be good to cut an episode there. See, the other thing is, discovered a new viewpoint. The other thing is that it really, it's not so much about the time or the episodes or how much you get to see or what have you. A viewpoint's a good stopping point, right? But it's a little bit about how big the files get, and even though I can handle how big the files are, it ultimately makes it so that if anything goes wrong during the upload process, and I'm in a place in which power outages are not totally uncommon, that Riga Hydroelectric Power Plant, that if I don't chop it, it takes forever to upload, and I really have to plan ahead. Like, for example, right now I'm uploading Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and those condensed, but originally ripped at, basically downsampled 4K into 1K, like, all the information that's on screen increases the actual amount of, like, information, and therefore the color depth, and therefore all the different changes in the picture and everything, all the nuance increases the file size. So, like, 45 minutes of one of those things what I was recording back then, and I've had to lower my quality a little bit to make it more sane, would result in like 20 gigabyte files. And a 20 gigabyte file is not something I can just casually upload. Like, I can't just, if I can keep a file between 6 and 14 gigabytes, I can get it up in under an hour. But a 20 gigabyte file is looking at like 2 hours or more if I end up doing other things on the hard drive that distract it. So I'm chopping this here. This has been Euro Truck Simulator 2. I've been Hunter Munn, and I will see you in the future. It will happen. Later.